Amidst all the fanfare and emotion in establishing the National Disability Insurance Scheme, the Victorian Government is quietly in the process of imposing massive fee increases for those people with disabilities living in supported government care. The new Department of Human Services fees come into force in December. They're a 50% increase on what disability pensioners currently pay, or in other words, an extra $5,000 out of their annual pension of just $19,000. Disability groups are outraged, calling it one of the most callous government decisions in memory. At first glance, the tall and well-groomed David Kodike appears like any other 36-year-old man, but it soon becomes apparent he's a little different. Despite being a very happy baby, at the age of 2 he was diagnosed with severe intellectual disabilities. He's bipolar and autistic.
That was his 21st birthday. We got a car and it actually had the number plate was DK.
That's car.
That's right.
Robert's car.
Move in a bit more. No, move in first.
David Kodike needs 24-hour care. He's unable to shower, dress or go to the toilet by himself. He also needs help eating. For the past 20 years, he's lived in residential care provided by the Department of Human Services. He currently pays $9,000 a year in board and lodging, but from December that fee will jump to more than $14,000. David's disability pension is $19,000 a year.
David would be able to only just pay for his incontinence pads that cost $4,000 a year. He wouldn't be able to attend a day service. He wouldn't be able to go out and do anything. He wouldn't be able to pay for his chemist bills. Right? He just wouldn't have a lot.
Gus Kodike says he'll have to cover David's $5,000 a year budget shortfall if his living standards are to be maintained.
Now, if David's got another 40 years of life,
But the cars?
we're going to have to subsidise him to the tune of $200,000 in today's dollars, right, for him to live.
Under the changes, residents in DHS accommodation will be charged 75% of their disability pension. The fee covers rent, food, laundry, cleaning and maintenance of the property. Joan Reid's 45-year-old daughter Laurel is also in DHS care.
It makes me feel like we're going back to the old days where people with disabilities were locked away in institutions, separated from the general community. Now they're out in the community, they're going to be isolated again because of financial restraints. They're not going to be able to do the things that they would like to do.
They won't have the disposable income to enable them to actually have a life. They will be institutionalised and isolated based on the fact they will not have the money to be able to do things, and yet this whole thing is predicated on giving people with disabilities greater choice.
A fair go for disability.
The fee increase will affect about 2,500 people in DHS care. From December, those people will pay an extra $11 million out of their own pockets for no improvement in their services.
I think it's an outrageous increase. We're totally devastated to see that government is attacking the most vulnerable people in our community with such an impost.
It just makes a mockery of the state disability plan, it makes a mockery of person-centred planning, and it makes a mockery of the way they're going to introduce the NDIS, because if that's what they're going to do, to support people with a disability and then whack them with a 50% rent increase, God help us.
The government says this change will bring Victoria into line with the other states.
Yes, but that doesn't make it right. The other states, people in the other states shouldn't be paying that amount of money either.
If that's what the NDIS means, introducing the lowest common denominator for all, then we don't want a bar of that. This should be about actually lifting standards.
The extra revenue taken from the pensions will be used to fund an additional 720 individual support packages for people with a disability. Advocates welcome the increased services, but say the wrong people are footing the bill.
It's robbing Peter, who hasn't got any money, right, to pay Paul. It's robbing the poor to support the poor.
The individual support package concept is what the NDIS is actually predicated on. In fact, it's almost a transitional arrangement to the NDIS by implementing this, and if this is what needs to be done to actually fund it, then I strongly suspect that people with disabilities are going to be substantially worse off under the NDIS.
The Department of Human Services says the actual cost of providing supported accommodation is $128,000 per person per year. Its heavily subsidised fees are much cheaper than non-government organisations.
We currently have a situation where the government is effectively undercutting the rest of the market. So we think over time the government moving to standardised accommodation fees makes some sense. But we do realise it will have impact on people with disability in the short term.
Done. Well done. Just a fortnight ago, the Premier emotionally signed on to the NDIS.
I spent 2 years as house parents for intellectually disabled in Hamilton. I met a young boy there, and he was 6 at the time, severely autistic. He's proudly part of my family today. Sorry.
Now his government is asking people with a disability to find an extra $5,000 a year from their pensions.
Dennis Napthine, in my view, should know better. He's been through it, he understands the situation, and I'm surprised that he would even allow something like this to occur. Very surprised.
It's ironic that Premier Napthine and all Victorian MPs should basically give themselves a pay rise and at the same time pick the pockets of those who can least afford it, and that is our most vulnerable people in the community, and that's people with disabilities.
Okay, good man.